Hey, it's Dr. Fee, and today we're talking about my gut is making me crazy, or am I making my gut crazy? Stay tuned. Hello, it's Dr. Fee, and I am thrilled to have the gorgeous Lucy Mason here. Say hi, Lucy.
Hi, everyone. So wonderful to be here.
Yeah, wonderful. Lucy and I have been having a lot of fun over the last 5.5 years. We've been a team that have worked together now, and our practice together has evolved. Lucy, did you want to describe your background, how you support our clients to achieve amazing results, especially about their gut, which is our topic today?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've always been really interested in gut health. For me, it started from a young age. My mum always taught me about healthy eating, and so it's always something I've been very passionate about. And yes, I started practicing with Fee a number of years back. And when I first started, it was very much focused around, doing some testing, looking at diet and focusing on those areas. And I think as we've gone along, we've discovered more and more how much the gut is actually connected in with our nervous system and how we think and feel. And so my approach to gut health, it still encompasses, things like diet and some testing from time to time, but very much with a focus now on feeling well and achieving
true
great
healing
health.
True healing, transforming our health from the inside out. Yes.
Yep.
And just to explain, your background is as a naturopath, but also, like me, we've trained in functional medicine, which is a fancy way of saying, as Lucy said, looking at the body's processes and using nutrition and things like supplements to really help to alleviate the problem and heal it on that level. And well, our mastery really lies on something deeper, which is what Lucy was introducing. So today we're talking about, is my gut driving me mad, or am I driving my gut mad? That's what we're talking about today. And look, burnout and digestive issues really do go hand in hand. And if you think you know everything about the gut and you listen to all the podcasts and there couldn't be possibly anything else that you could hear, well, I challenge you with that one, right, Lucy? Because we actually have a lot of grace, and we've had the beautiful opportunities of supporting women who have had severe digestive issues and tried everything, including very, very expensive supplement regimes and, multiple testings of thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars spent on checking their poo and the quality of poo. And to be completely honest, we did that to our clients once upon a time, but our practice has changed and evolved because we've really determined what is underneath it and what most experts are missing. So if you're being driven mad by your gut, then tune in. I promise you'll get something, or that's certainly our intention, for you to get something that you need to help you in your gut journey. So first of all, let's talk about why burnout and gut is linked, first of all. And I think the best place to start is looking at how the gut is related to whether it's our immune system, hormonal, skin, all of that. Now, isn't it wonderful, Lucy? I mean, we have to stop and appreciate how things have changed and how gut health is more on everyone's radar, and people are talking about it, right?
Yeah, it's in all the scientific papers now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's certainly, you see on Instagram time and time again, Hippocrates saying all disease starts in the gut. And really, from our perspective, yeah, kinda. And what we want to explore with you right now is just to understand, when I first, and this was probably about 8 to 10 years ago, really started to embrace and really appreciate how phenomenal the gut is, and how it is interrelated and impactful on all of our other systems was this analogy of looking at the gut like a tree. So if you can imagine, the gut is like the trunk of the tree, and each branch just represented the relationship that the gut had with our skin or our immune system. And, you know, maybe one branch was the gut and the adrenals, and the gut and the thyroid connection. And, you know, for many of you who have been on a search of trying to understand the gut better and better, you'll start to see that, oh, it does have a lot of these symptoms, and a lot of my signs, you know, does have a basis that comes back to the gut. And so we're all on board with that.
Yep.
And the reason is because, yes, 70 to 80% of our immune system's in the gut. Absolutely. Yeah.
I like to describe it as the portal. The gut is kind of the portal for everything that goes in and everything that needs to come out. And, you know, every other system is linking in with that one portal.
So that's exactly it. And if you don't have a healthy gut, then all of those branches, you might have all of those branches impacted. For our clients, generally we'll see more than one. We'll see a lot of those branches, a lot of these systems are impacted. And yes, we can say, oh, and let me guess, you've got some digestive issues too. Yes, I do. It's like, oh, we seem clairvoyant, very intuitive, but actually it's just based on science. But we're going to take it one step further. And where we want to really get you to is understanding that, yes, gut health is important, but what really underlies that is our nervous system. And our nervous system consisting of the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system, our fight, flight, or our rest and digest system or systems. And if you can imagine how that fits in from our perspective, our understanding is really, it's like the soil or the roots, you know, the foundation of what the tree is sitting on, or what our gut is sitting in. And so if our nervous system is chaotic, it's incoherent, it's, you know, we're stressed out, we're in a fight, flight, burnt out way of being, it's definitely going to have a flow-on effect upstream, downstream, left and right, all over, and especially impacting the gut. Make sense?
Absolutely.
So we wanted to just bring that to you. Now, the gut and the nervous system, or the gut-brain axis, is a bi-directional relationship. It absolutely is. There's beautiful studies that look at, you know, if we take probiotics, it can really change the emotional regulation centers of our brain. You know, when we really see it, when we can get on top of people's digestive symptoms, they will sleep better and feel calmer. Absolutely. However, what most experts are focusing on, and most practitioners are focusing on, are really more complicated ways of managing the gut, looking at the microbiome, looking at how to fix digestion and motility, and how to support excretion and all of that. And kind of just saying, oh yeah, and meditate too. Oh yeah, it's important to focus on some lifestyle
off things on the side, but without any real direction.
That's it.
Yeah.
And what do you think about that, Lucy?
Yeah. I mean, I see that time and time again. And I think it's for a lot of practitioners, they're, you know, perhaps a little out of their comfort zone and not quite sure how to address this for people, you know, and that's really what the program that FEE has developed is all around, is really providing some very helpful tools that can be used for women in their day-to-day to get on top of stress. And it's the piece that's lacking for so many. So if we just step back a little bit and have a look, well, okay, how does stress impact us? You know, we have such a varied presentation for women when they turn up with burnout, you know, especially when there's digestive symptoms. And for a lot of our clients, if they are stressed, then that could mean that they're running to the toilet all the time, that really their gut is so fragile that it just shows, oh, I've just reached that point of overwhelm. And that is diarrhea, that's bloating, it's flatulence, it's embarrassment. It means like, I can't leave the toilet today. And then there's other ways, right, Luce, in terms of how it can show up. It could swing the other way. Yeah, absolutely. We can see, you know, when the nervous system is activated and a woman is overwhelmed, that everything can kind of clench, become tight, you can imagine the bowel is the same. The bowel is it's a muscle. It's a long cylindrical muscle. And so if you're clenching, the bowel can constrict, and that can cause issues like gut pains and constipation. And, then when you're constipated, the bugs are just there fermenting away. It's all plugged up, toxins circulating.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we feel sluggish, brain fog, sugar cravings, energy crashes, muscle aches. And of course, remember all of those branches, our skin, we can get acne. Yeah, we can get rashes. We can have histamine intolerances and histamine reactions and salicylate reactions. And we can have, in terms of hair loss and other downstream effects. And then if you think about our immune system, well, where is it? It's in the gut. So those effects are now I'm sore, I'm achy, I feel like I'm 80 years old. So on and so forth.
And for some women, you can swing as well when it comes to how their gut reacts. Most women will tend towards one way or the other, but you've got all these little nerves, and sometimes they can be tickling away and causing loose stools and aggravation, and other times it can be more of a feeling of like holding on and clenching. So it's never necessarily one or the other. It can, it can be quite normal for it to alternate, and that's particularly common in IBS.
100%. And so if you ask someone who, when you think about your gut, you do feel a little like, shameful or embarrassed by it. Like, honestly, we've seen it all. Like, some of our clients have had going to the toilet 10 to 15 times a day, or not being able to go to the toilet for 10 to 15 days. And so it just is a symptom of a greater issue. And so we can try and deal with it on a level which is, okay, well, if I'm not pooping, let me take the laxatives, let me drink the water and try and get things going from that point of view. Or we can actually stop and think, what's going on a deeper level? And same with diarrhea. Well, I'll just try and take some poo stoppers and, and do what I can so I can get some normal level of functioning back. So, if we really think about, well, why, especially when our message is, well, hey, maybe this is feedback from the body saying there's something else at play here. And is this because you're in a state of survival? Is this because you're in a dominant fight-flight state? And if so, physiologically, what happens when we're under stress impacts our digestion in so many ways. I know when was in a state of absolute push, eating was just one of those things I did on the go. And so we kind of just dismiss it. Like, we want to focus on what to eat or what to take to fix my gut. But actually that pattern of just being mindless and that pattern of rushing and multitasking, we're more likely to sit down and feed our kids than we are to sit down and focus on our own meal. But pausing and how we eat and the state that we're in when we receive the food has a massive impact on our overall gut motility and gut function. And if we just jump over that, what chance does our gut have?
And there's no point in eating the healthiest diet in the world if your gut can't assimilate and process all of those nutrients. It's kind of just like putting empty calories into your mouth if it's not going to absorb.
100%, because your gut, because it is in the state where it's receptive or able to really function in that way, to draw
You're
out
not getting the most out of it.
And it starts right at the top, guys. If you stop and think about, were you mindless today when you had lunch? Did you actually stop and chew? Yeah, I mean it. Like, it is one of those things that sometimes we have to retrain ourselves to do. I've had clients who have actually been, just all they've done is be more mindful with their relationship with food and how they eat, and have had a dramatic improvement in their gut. And a part of it is because they're chewing their food more, and that helps the gut in tremendous ways. But they're also
tasting their food,
tasting it, feeling
enjoying it.
That's it. And it's the French paradox. The French paradox is where the beautiful French culture has high fat, saturated fats, you know, they enjoy the lifestyle, but they also, how they eat their food, it's a very social thing. Typically it's a sit down,
taken over a number of hours, or
take it over an hour.
Yeah.
And that allows the body to receive it, and it supports the body to rest and digest. And our message, guys, is actually that can be one of the most powerful steps of helping you to recover. And it is because, in fact, we're driving our gut mad. Stress will cause our digestive enzymes to go down, right, Luce?
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
Yeah.
You know, our brain is instructing our digestion, and if our brain is distracted, say for example, where, you know, we're sitting at our computer checking our emails and scoffing lunch on the side, our brain's not going to be getting the message that it's time to eat. And so those messages to all of the organs that release the digestive enzymes is just not going to be happening.
Yeah,
you just can't process it if your brain's not on board.
Yeah, 100%. And it has a flow-on effect. And we could go into more of those details, but I think you should probably get the message by now that, you know, we could, and this is the thing, most of our clients do bring in massive bagfuls of supplements, right, Luce? And our job is actually just, let's get you off it. Not only is it increasing the risk of all of these things becoming this toxic bomb, you know, because the more you take, the more potential complications you have, because they do work. We do truly believe in them. However, you know, sometimes like people are spending so much money on them, and they're taking digestive enzymes, and they're taking hydrochloric acid, and is that right? Yeah, HCl. And they're taking all of these things. And at the end of the day, well, there's other things that can be done, like where you can give your body that spaciousness in the room so that you can actually, it can get itself into a state of digesting.
And
so
start
I'm not
producing
telling you guys to
itself.
Them,
yeah.
but you know, it's something to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, I think that's really just an important distinction. If you are sort of finding yourself going through lots of probiotics and tonics and things to help with the gut to equalize and balance it, well, stop and reflect on is there something deeper that's happening in the nervous system, in that survival state, that is actually driving the gut to like disharmony. And you know, if you have also experienced, like many of our clients, which is taken a lot of these supplements and they've worked, and you're celebrating, and then you're starting to find, wait up, no, these symptoms are coming back again. No, and they're not as effective again, and you're starting to feel a bit heavy-hearted. We've seen that, and the reason is, and it's just an opportunity, it's an invitation, I think, from the body for you to actually stop and wonder, what else could this be? Is it something deeper at play? Is there a pattern that is at play?
Especially a lot of people will feel, you know, if they go on holiday and they forget to take their supplements with them, you know, and it's like they notice that all of their symptoms come back again the moment they're not taking, you know, 10 different things. And it's definitely a sign that true healing isn't taking place. You know, there's more work to be done, because who wants to be reliant on 10 different things to keep them stable?
Yes, 100%. And again, please know we're not doing this to beat anyone up. It's just talking to those women who have tried exactly all of this and have that sense of, oh, I'm broken. No, the approach is broken. Yeah. And actually, if you look at it, you know yourself, when I feel a certain way, where do we hold our emotions? When you're stressed out, even if you're healthy and you have to do a performance, we get performance belly. You know, I know that. I used to do cross country running, long distance running, and it's just like, oh, I got to go to the toilet beforehand, you know? And it's just how it works, because that's the nervous system and that's the impact. And so if we're in a state where that's getting triggered all the time, then our gut is just giving us feedback. That's it. And so we get to embrace it. And it is important. You know, we know that we always have a choice when we have this. It's to keep pushing on, trying the same thing, hoping for a different outcome, or we can give up, you know, and just be like, well, this is how it's going to be, or we can take a deep breath, especially if you've been in the roller coaster of trying things with your gut, and, you know, go, oh, well, maybe there's something else. Maybe there's something deeper at play here. And I encourage you guys to do it, because the future consequences of having a sick gut or a sick nervous system is quite big.
Mm.
You know? We see women, we take this pretty seriously, don't we, Luce, when women are in a survival state, especially when we're linking so much of the gut to our immune system, and raising questions of, is that why autoimmunity is on the rise? Is that why cancer is on the rise? Is that why, you know, chronic fatigue and other things? And, you know, there's a lot of factors that impact gut health through our lifestyle and the way that, you know, we've brought in antibiotics and the way that we produce our food and process food and all of that. I completely agree. And so it is something that requires our attention so that we can live long, healthy lives.
Absolutely. You know, a stressed gut, it's you know, if left unchecked, I guess it can lead to a lot of other complications that, you know, potentially could have been avoided. And we certainly do see that a lot. And it's amazing how quickly you can, you know, if you get on top of it and address what's going on with the nervous system, it's amazing the turnaround in terms of healing, how quickly it can take place, like a matter of weeks.
Yes.
And your gut can be on the mend. And, you know, I mean, we've seen women who their digestive symptoms completely gone within, you know, the space of a few weeks. And, you know, all of their autoimmune markers and all those things that are linked in with the gut, you know, that may take a little longer, but still a very, very quick turnaround once they get to the true root of what the issue is.
And that's life-changing, because if you've gone from a place where you can't confidently leave your house, and again, if you guys have seen our webinar, the 5 simple steps that our professional women take to overcome burnout, in that is one of our client wins. And it's of a woman who really couldn't leave her home because of such diarrhea, and unfortunately having incontinence with it. And that's a prison. And, you know, if your gut, and it doesn't have to be that extreme, it can be that sense of bloating that, you know, you're socializing and you get such bloating and you're like, oh my God, I have to undo the top button, and you kind of don't want to get up and dance. You don't want to get up from the table because you know, you're feeling 20 weeks pregnant, you can't do up your top button. It has an impact on how you get to enjoy connection, how you get to enjoy life, and the flow-on effects from that. And it is beautiful to see when women get a sense of freedom back.
Absolutely.
Freedom from food, freedom from diarrhea, the toilet. Yes, absolutely. So here's how, I guess, you know, a lot of people do, and I think there is definitely a role in nutrition. You know, we know, I guess, if we look at that level of what a lot of experts are talking about, and what we agree with them is, what makes a healthy gut, Lucy? What makes a healthy gut? Well, you know, nutrition, no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
it's better to eat a better diet than Macca's. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a couple of things you're touching on there. One is that, you know, if we're malnourished and we're not eating adequate nutrients in our diet, then we can't make things like hydrochloric acid, which is in our stomach. We can't make the digestive enzymes. We can't heal the intestinal lining if we don't have nutrients. It's essential for all of these processes. And then the other aspect of that is, of course, what we're eating, how it's feeding our microbiome, or the bugs that live in our gut, and they need food too. And what you eat feeds them too. So if you're eating lots of sugar and highly processed foods, you're going to be feeding up colonies of bugs in your gut that are pretty undesirable, really. Versus if you're eating lots of fiber-rich whole foods, you know, that can really support a nice healthy gut biome. And these healthy bugs, these beneficial bugs, you know, they can talk to our immune system, and really amazing studies coming out around how these bugs can influence our overall health, how we feel.
Beautiful. I think your microphone might be just rubbing a little bit on your scarf, if you just want to push that down.
Just adjust that a bit.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, and it's like diversity in what we eat. I mean, we are creatures, aren't we, of habitual creatures, and we like to have the same breakfast and the same lunch, and
peas and corn every dinner time.
And so really it's about the more diverse, the colors, the beautiful veggies and all of that. We have a lot of women who come to us because of restriction and getting fed up with restriction, or finding themselves in a cycle of restriction. They have a stressed gut. They might restrict certain food groups initially and find relief with it, but then end up finding themselves react more and more to things, and then finding themselves in a pattern of having to restrict even further. Can you talk a little bit about that, Luce?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess when there are restrictions in place, that in itself can be a big stressor. And coming back to our sort of the whole point of this episode that we're doing is really around how our nervous system is actually at the root of a lot of our digestive concerns. And if we're eating really highly restrictive diets, that it creates a lot of, it makes it difficult for us to eat out. It makes it difficult to go over to people's houses and eat. And, that can create a lot of stress, right, for women. And
a lot of resentment, a lot of guilt when you emotionally eat. You eat the wrong things, so and then we end up beating ourselves up for it. Where do our emotions sit, people? Where do we hold on to our emotions? Have you noticed? It might be in the gut. Very interesting.
So it's a bit of a vicious loop, really, isn't it, when it comes to food restrictions, because staying in that sort of survival state, and it really can just exacerbate the restrictions and the intolerances, and more intolerances can start popping up, and so and create a really negative relationship with food and eating. So
that is really, really, really powerful point. I think it's a sense of powerlessness and a sense of frustration at the body that I hear a lot about with women, like this, my digestion, why isn't it sorted out? But also then not having a clue which food they're going to be reacting to. So it's a sense of hypervigilance and a sense of anxiety that can come with choosing their foods, and it just becomes a bit of a nightmare. And in turn, that creates more sensitivity and can create that looping as well. And I also really feel that there is, if we just focus on restricting without actually healing, without actually getting the body out of a hypervigilant fight-flight state, it's like the body is constantly wired to find threats. And I really feel like what happens is that things that are very simple in our environment, such as foods that we eat, that we can be very heightened. We actually cross-wiring, it goes haywire, and we then actually can develop food intolerances to things that previously were okay, but it's just the body is in such a state. That's what I personally believe.
Definitely. The immune system can become quite confused, essentially. Is a simplistic way of putting it. It doesn't know how to recognize what's good for us and bad for us anymore. It's just launching attack on anything that we eat.
100%. And then there's also this, we can get pretty overcomplicated. It's like, well, okay, what about what we can do to address the microbiome then? It's all about the gut. We've heard so much, well, we've got 10 times more amount of bacteria than human genome and human cells. We're more bacteria than human, and it's an important conversation. And I just know previously our practice probably made it a bit too complicated, right, Lucy? If we're really going to own it, we were doing a lot of expensive poo testing. But the reality is there's thousands and thousands of species of gut bacteria.
We can't possibly capture it all with a test.
We can't. I think, when I was doing that more often, it was up to 40. And we're really just tapping into we're the tip of the iceberg with that. And what we're discovering, I think there's some really great principles around it is, yes, we've got beneficials, and yes, we've got those that are indicative that there's been some harm, perhaps with an antibiotic use. You know, we can look at ones that are more commonly associated with inflammation. Absolutely, there is information that you can get from poo testing. However, just because we find a bug there doesn't mean it's causing issues too. That's always a very, very important take home. And we hear this with parasites all the time. It's parasites, it's parasites. And it's like people go chasing parasites and end up causing
more damage.
Massive damage. Doing triple therapy and all sorts of things. And unfortunately, it takes years for the body to recover, the gut to recover from it.
Or they can resolve it, but their digestive issues are still there, and it's because they were chasing the wrong thing. You know, we come hone in on one thing that, you know, it's when you look at the gut, you really have to look at it holistically and the whole community of bugs rather than one bug in isolation.
And what's interesting, and I think this is coming back to what we really want you to understand, is that stress is so important in that healing process, but also just resolving gut symptoms. If we resolve the stress, if we give the body what it needs, which is a state of rest and digest, it will take care of itself. And we know in studies that even bacteria have got receptors on there for our stress hormones, noradrenaline. And, you know, we don't know what that means. I just find that very curious. I find that some of those more negative bugs, or those bugs that are thought to be a bit bad, you know, can respond, you know, or they have receptors for our stress hormones. And so maybe, you know, maybe there is, when we're in a state of stress, it will influence the disharmony or the imbalance between good and bad bugs, if there's such a thing, you know. And from my perspective, or from our perspective, if we're allowing ourselves some spaciousness and we're out of that survival state so that we can become, and, you know, again, allow our body, you know, we cut ourselves. What does our body do? It takes care of itself. And I really feel like if we can be focusing on simple things to help ourselves in that way, to be in a state of rest and digest, then what we see is these bugs kind of sort themselves out. You know, the environment settles down because we're chewing our food better, our digestive enzymes are there better, the pH, the environment is better. And so the bugs, you know, they sit where they're meant to sit rather than going all the wrong places like SIBO and other diagnoses. And, you know, it's one of those really important things. Did you want to add anything to that, Luz?
Yeah, and I was also just thinking, as you're saying, you know, when we look after ourselves and we get ourselves out of that fight-flight mode, we're more likely to be drawn to nutritious food as well. You know, we're less likely to stop off and get takeaway on the way home, or, you know, be drawn to that convenience meal, or eat that Mars bar in the afternoon because our energy is crashing. When we're looking after ourselves and we feel well, we want to eat nutritious food, and we're more likely to. So that's going to have an impact on our
that is a
gut biomes as
phenomenal
well.
phenomenal point, because so many of our clients in burnout are beating themselves up because of sabotage. They know they start, what they try to do is to start with the solution of eating better. I just have to eat better.
Yeah, they put so much pressure on themselves.
So much pressure on it. It's my fault. I should be sugar-free, gluten-free, dairy-free, fun-free. It's my fault. And they start there, but they're at a point of depletion. And they're at a point where they're just, you know, got so much disconnection, or pushing on for too many years. And so then they try to eat well, and they might have a nice lunch, but before you know it, they sabotage themselves and emotionally eating. And it just becomes this vicious cycle, just like you said. And it's patterns. These are the patterns that come up with burnout.
Yeah.
Well, I think, you know, really, I just wanted to tie it up and talk about some of the amazing things that we see. You know, if we opened up our understanding of what health is, and how digestive issues could actually be feedback, that our digestive, our crazy gut, or our gut making us crazy, isn't a frustration and an inconvenience. Hey, I get it. I've get it. Someone who has healed their gut. I completely understand where you're at. But what if this is something that we could use as feedback to be like, oh, what am I holding on to? What's really at play here? What am I missing? How am I out of alignment with my best self? maybe this is a symptom or a sign from the universe to say, hey, you know, wake up. What would that look like? And I invite our listeners to really, for you to reflect on that.
Mm.
You know, if you could stop and pause and reflect on, what am I holding in my gut? Is there some sadness? Is it is there some despair? When you talk to someone, when you think about work, where do you feel it? Is it in your gut? Oh, that's great feedback. And if so, this is where we get to listen to that. And that is often, if we approach that and resolve that, what we've seen, right, Lucy, is things just shifting within weeks.
Yeah. And it's funny when I talk to clients, you know, after they've implemented these changes, it's like they've forgotten. It's like, oh, that's right. I used to have diarrhea every day, and you know, it's like it wasn't, you know, it wasn't ever them. It's pretty amazing.
And I mean, that's it. Most of the women who come to us are for the physical symptoms, right? They come with all these physical symptoms, and when they leave, they can't even remember what that was, because their whole focus is on now other concepts such as, you know, self-compassion and, you know, being kinder to themselves, and the liberation, the freedom that comes from that, so that they can really show up and be the happiest mum and the, you know, happiest boss that they can be, which is really, really wonderful. And you know, I think if any of you feel a little, oh goodness, yeah, but what will I find? What does that even mean? What do you mean I'm holding my emotions in my gut, and the potential that my gut is trying to tell me something? Oh, that all sounds a bit flaky, and it all sounds a bit weird. Well, you know, you could think that, and you can be skeptic about it, or you can look at what reality is right now. If you've tried all these other things and they're not working, or they've worked and they've come back, and you've got this opportunity to think about a different path of healing, then hey, it's up to you whether you decide to be open and take those steps. So really, guys, I hope that's, you know, been some encouragement and been a bit more informative of thinking about another way of looking at, you know, when you're in a state where your gut is driving you crazy, maybe we're driving it crazy too. Anything you want to finish on at all, Lucy?
I don't think so. You've covered it beautifully, Fee.
Awesome. So wonderful to speak to you guys today. And thanks so much for joining me, Lucy.
Thank
so
you
much
for
fun.
It was been fun. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. If you want to subscribe, just click on my head beneath this so that you can subscribe to the channel. And if you would like to book a call with our amazing team to have that life-changing conversation, then click on the button beneath this that says book a call, or you can go to our website, which is findingbliss.com.au/apply, and make sure that you fill in that application form so that we know a little bit about you. We can better prepare for the session and serve you in a more meaningful way. Awesome. Stay tuned, and I look forward to seeing you on the next show. Bye-bye.